Good morning. It is 6 a.m. here in the Pacific Northwest, and thank you for joining me for Flow Chaser Monday. I am presenting a theory about accessing flow state. Um, I'm particularly interested in the lens of accessing the flow state as a professional, as a business owner, and hopefully I will show how those things are correlated. It is April 6th. The plan for today, I'll share just about what this video is going to be about, a little bit about who I am. Before I talk about flow state, I think it's really important to talk about burnout because that's where a lot of people who are chasing flow, who dream of a new way of working or interacting with personal growth work, then we need to talk about burnout before we can talk about the fun stuff, chasing flow. The goal is that you leave this presentation really revved up for whatever that you're doing in the work week, because the work that you do is significant for the flow that you experience. So there's no selling on this. This is a practice that I'm doing to access the flow state using repetitiveness. And I wanted to get really good at making one presentation. And if there's a subject that I can talk about for 52 weeks straight, that is flow. And so this happens every Monday at 6 a.m. And it's about a 30-minute lecture. I'm getting much better at keeping the lecture time down. And there are notes and stuff on my website. They're pretty minimal for now. It is April, and this is going to be going on all year. So hopefully that'll be coming together more soon. But highlyanticipated.net/Mondays is where you can find that. A little bit about who I am. So I've been like a web and brand designer for the last 10 years. I've owned my own business. I am a morning person. I think I feel very alive right now in all the possibilities and like things that can be done. And Monday is just kind of like that hotbed. And I realize that Monday mornings at 6 a.m. are not everyone's cup of tea. Replay. Hi, thank you so much for watching this weird presentation. In human design, I'm a 1-3 profile. I kind of call us like the first dodo over the cliff. We're really the people that like to go out and experience things for ourselves. In fact, we don't learn from other people very easily. We have to have that experience. And then we come back to the group and say, hey, I tried this. This worked. Hey, it didn't. So that's what a 1-3 profile is. And it's really cringy. You make a lot of mistakes, and you make a lot of mistakes in public if you're a 1-3 profile. And so that's another thing that I'm getting used to. And showing up and doing a live presentation every week is a great way to get over that like perfectionisms, because I haven't been able to show up perfect any week, every week. It's not going to happen. So this has been a really worthy practice. I'm also a highly sensitive person. I have mental health things that come up. I'm a person with inconsistent energy patterns. I really wanted to learn more about flow because I wanted to be more productive. And what I learned was that chasing flow and chasing goals are two different things. Chasing flow is more about like the progress, the mission, the potential, the curiosity that exists with all of us when we are nurtured and cared for. So having these inconsistent energy patterns, all I wanted was more productivity and more energy. But what I found was a deeper connection and a more loving relationship to myself. Burnout. And how did I learn all those things? I went into the pits. I hit rock bottom. That's what it was. No, but this starts because when people are high capacity, that means there's something about them. There's something that they can do, perform, um, be that other people recognize as valuable. And so praise is given to encourage that person to like keep doing the thing that we all really like. And sometimes that can lead to burnout, especially when the thing that other people really like just feels kind of empty and hollow for you, or maybe like a cheap trick, or maybe you don't feel supported in the doing of that. That leads to burnout. And burnout is so painful because it feels like we can't be who we are. We can't have authenticity with our people. So because that's so painful, we do a lot of unconscious behaviors. We have addictions and, everything from the doom scrolling and you're coming out of it not feeling so great to, numbing yourself with different things. This is like the unconscious behavior because I believe the separation between who you think you are and who you think you can be is different. And I talk about that because as somebody who is very motivated, like I am an achiever at my core. I like to do, I want to try. There's a part of me that's maybe a little less healed that wants to be the first. It wants to be the best. It wants to be like the person who saves the day. Like that is where my soul feels the safest. But with chasing flow, I have to really evaluate my own motives to get into that flow state of like potential where my other triggers aren't showing up as much. So, we'll talk in this presentation about a little bit about what I internalize flow to be, your brain on flow, the neurochemicals of this is just fascinating. How to chase flow, that'll be through the lens of you got to find your own thing because it's so individual, right? And then that creativity and adaptability that is like a hallmark of like a really rich flow state. And then how radical self-acceptance and alignment is like the entrance, like the portal, if you will, to these flow states where human potential is just every human achievement of a group, an individual, whatever, you can mark different points, this flow state. So, what is flow? I really think of it as we all have this comfort zone, and this comfort zone, of course, adjusts as the conditions in our lives, like the other pressures and stuff that we have going on. My therapist says sunburn, which is such a good analogy. Like, if you have a sunburn, you're going to be a lot more raw. If you have a lot going on, your comfort zone is going to be a lot more compact. And then just right outside of our comfort zone is when we ask questions like, I wonder what would happen if. So we don't know what is going to happen. There's not the surety that we have deep in within our comfort zone of I know exactly what's going to happen. That provides a lot of comfort, especially to somebody like me who craves a lot of control in her life, or used to at least. As my comfort zone is expanding, my craving for comfort feels a little bit more adjustable, like there's a little bit more breathing room. And then just right outside of it, when you don't know what would happen, I believe that that is the starting point of flow. And then we're in this flow state, and we can talk a little bit about maybe what some of the key attributes of like a good flow state would be. But then you hit dysregulation. Dysregulation can be minimal. I have to go pee. Dysregulation could be um, I something just happened and I am really stressed about it. I'm only thinking about that. Your brain has hit dysregulation. It is out of the flow state. So everything from the comfort zone of I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm comfortable with like the potentiality of what is. So curiosity, right? Is just outside of the comfort zone, all the way up to when you reach a dysregulated zone, the party stops, the brain puts all the energy into regulation. This is not a bad thing that's happening. This is a very good thing that happens. And we all have a dysregulation zone. Some of us are just better at navigating how to get close to it without actually going past it. Um, Historically, I have not been one of those people, right? I fly off the handle all the time. So, in between that space, this is the flow state or the potentiality for flow state, where there's complete focus and absorption. There's complete interest in what you are doing. Time gets a little bendy and melty, and you don't know quite what's going on, which is just super fun. And people genuinely report, even if they're doing challenging, difficult things, that there's a level of satisfaction and enjoyment with these flow states. So they're these highly productive, highly growth oriented states that you can organize your brain into with deliberate care and action. And it's different than something like a a bad flow state. So there's something about like enjoying the process of this flow state as opposed to having it feel like it was counterproductive or something like that. Because flow is not necessarily good or bad. We'll talk a little bit more about what shitty flow is, but we're noticing some of the factors of like time melting away, complete absorption and focused. And you look up and it's like it's changed. If it was light, it's now dark. It was dark, it's now night. Just like, whoa, where did time go? Those are the fun ones. And so what's happening here? It's free drugs. So there's a neurotransmitter surge that is going into this. I don't know if it's like evolutionary, if this is like kind of the hunter drive, like all of your resources and like capacity, like resources get sent to the brain so that we can handle the challenge ahead of us, right? But we're getting dopamine, norepinephrine, endorphins, and anandamines at a rate that like the street value of these drugs would kill a person. And your brain is just making them for free to in response to this environment that maybe you have manufactured deliberately and it feels really good. Another reason that it feels really good, especially if maybe you have a tricky brain or a loud brain like I do, what a good flow state does is it numbs the part of the prefrontal cortex that's really like the inner critic. This is the voice that when you sit down and do something creative, it's like, this is dumb. People are judging you. They're not going to like this. This is bad. That actually numbs. That's part of the neurotransmitter surge, is that this cocktail, this yummy free drug cocktail, is changing your brain chemistry in this very productive way. So, how do we chase flow? The cool thing about this is that what works for me is not going to work for you. The things that light me up, I mean, astrology, um, energetics, herbalism, like those kind of things would just bore the bejesus out of somebody else. And so there's that individualization of like what makes you really tick. What are the scenarios and environments that keep you regulated enough to stay in this flow state for long enough that your brain can really just bathe in all of these neurotransmitters, right? How you chase flow is going to be completely individual to you. And notice how you chase goals and how that is different than you chase flow. Because we can have shitty flow. And shitty flow, I would define as, for me, it's my doom scrolling. When I look up, I don't know what time it was, but I was doing something was so not productive. My brain doesn't even like calculate that as rest, even though I was like sitting on my tuchus, not doing anything, and just like blah, 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 blah. That is shitty flow. Sometimes shitty flow can be doing things at the 11th hour. Other times, that is when people are the most turned on and lit up, is when the thing is almost due and they have to get it together. For me, I've noticed that while I really do crave doing things at the last minute because it does turn on more of that like adrenaline, which helps me focus, it is shitty flow. And I would count that because at the end of it, one, it's a grab bag if the attention is going to be present enough for me at that moment. So that's why it's like I cannot wait until the last moment. That stresses me out. But because I will ignore my body signals in a flow state in order to perform. And it's something that I think is like really a toxic inner trait. And I don't want to do that. And I was noticing I was doing more of this shitty flow when I was chasing a goal. And then when I really dissected, like, what is the difference between chasing a goal and what is the chase goal? What is the difference between chasing flow? And I believe that that's like the connection and that inner wisdom of like how you do things and how I do things are going to be probably very different based on our brains and who we are and what we're doing. When I applied this as a business owner who works with other business owners, I was thinking about like if you were to organize an employment situation or a work situation, where flow was present, what would you do? And as I'm growing a team for my business, Highly Anticipated, I'm becoming so much more interested in like, what are those dynamics where the team that I work with has access to this flow state. And the first one is like mission driven, making sure that everyone is bought into the mission who contributes to it, not only from the team members' perspective, but for the clients too. And so I believe that in order to be properly mission driven, it's not only an internal driver, it is a communication. And as somebody who works in brand communications, I've seen this to be true. When you are clear about what you want to create in this world, the change that you want to make in the market, for your clients that is just so magnetic. It's very flowy. It's like, wow, that person, you know where they're going. So mission driven. Then you have to have like the freedom to perform. Like as a boss now, how do I give my team enough freedom to make decisions, to really feel like they can have an inspiration and run with it as a respected professional? And then 3, this was the trickiest one. I know consistency is such a triggering word for so many people, especially if you have a neurospicy brain like mine with ADHD. Like consistent, this seems like a judgment. However, what I'm noticing is that when you take away the thinking about when you're going to show up and how you're going to show up and you just have it as part of a consistent flow, like a minimum bar of like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, new things become, because that's no longer like a thing you have to worry about or really consider. You can really start doing a lot of things on autopilot. Then your consciousness gets wrapped up in a different thing. And sometimes that different thing is just enough change to really engage the brain in more possibilities and send you into a flow state. So consistency is a flow trigger in that regard. And that's how I mean it. Adaptive. Now, this is like the freedom and stuff to change, but adaptiveness is, I believe, a celebration of the struggles that come your way. There are new adaptations that we are being asked to made by markets, by our clients, by whatever conditions are present for us, like a new mental health diagnosis or like chronic illness. Being adaptive to how things are changing builds this resiliency that like, I don't know what's going to come up, but I just handled the last 10 things and I'm pretty happy with the outcome here and now. So that's what I mean by a high flow business is adaptive. We have clear goals and direction. Is that also mission driven? Can I combine these and simplify them? I'm thinking maybe I can. So maybe next time this will be just 5 kind of hallmarks I think of a high flow business. And then we're growing capacity. As we're taking on these challenges and adapting and staying in the flow state of responding and also being driven towards a goal, we'll get there and we grow capacity and things expand. Like flow really does have this expansive magnetic quality to it. It's so captivating to watch. And that's why I believe that we really crave this high flow career. We want to use our intellectualness for not just production, but for like movement in our lives. The sense of I was here and now we are here, the sense of progress, not this hedonic treadmill of I was making this much money and now I'm making this much money. I know that companies have wanted to exploit flow technology for its employees for years with varying levels of success. But at the end of the day, we crave this high flow career because we love work. We love work. And if you love work, you want a way to work that really lights you up. And the flow state offers that. Another way that we grow capacity for our flow state is this creativity and adaptability. And as if you think about this like breathing ball or orb of your comfort zone all the way out to the outer portion of like the dysregulation zone. As a new challenge comes in, like how far is it getting to like the core of your comfort zone? And are you accepting it and flowing with it and then kind of like bouncing it back? So it's like, are you playing volleyball? Or are you just getting like hammered by dodgeballs? um, like that really feels like the change to me. And if you look at every challenge that comes your way as a business owner, you respond by taking the challenge like into a flow state of like recognizing your regulation and then expanding it. I've had so much success with this of just adapting and knowing that the challenges that come up are going to be met with an equal adaptation. Steps to good flow. It all starts with self-regulation. That's why people have who exercise regularly have that like physical movement. They notice that they're better at getting regulated than somebody who doesn't like physically challenge themselves in that way, like whatever the movement is. But that is such a great way to physical movement to regulate the body. Another step to good flow is centering those values and purpose, that mission driven life, and then finding your own alignment. Like within that, what part of the values and purpose are you just like really called and really excited to be like, I don't know what that could look like in its full fulfillment, but I want to try it. I want to work towards that progress. So defining a clear goal. And then I like to remove distractions. When I wrote this presentation, I also realized that some people might like little environmental artifacts when they're in like a good, juicy flow state, because they'll kind of like float around to ideas. Maybe that's more of my thing. I also set a timer because number 6, you got to stop when you need to and build trust within your body that you are going to stop when you need to. One of the things that contributed to my burnout is because I was getting into these long work sessions where like my physicality would change. Like I would be hunched over doing this and that. And a lot of my stress crept up into my body when I did that. And I would like push through, just one more thing, one more task that I'm going to get through before I get up and go to the bathroom or get something to drink. And when I stopped doing that and started to really like cue in of, I'm going to stop at the first sign that I am getting uncomfortable and I'm going to train my body, because what I was finding was that it was even harder to find concentration because I believe my body associated that with like danger at a certain point. So by stopping when I need to, I feel like I have increased my access to the flow state because my body is not equating it with danger anymore. Another form of danger is feeling rejected for the things that you care about the most. And when we chase goals, it is really easy to chase the goals that society accepts: a higher paycheck, a relationship, certain deals, or like alliances. But if you really come back to yourself and accept yourself, I believe this provides more access to the flow state because you realize that whoever you are with your own stew of talents and experiences and challenges, that is worthy of acceptance and support. Maybe not to some people, but for you and the group that you and the community that you have built around you. And that radical self-acceptance of I don't need to be anything that I'm not, the things that I'm interested in, my curiosities, myself, that is good enough for the challenge and that is enough to get into a flow state, while it might not be enough to get into a goal that society might set for you. We expand capacity when we take on challenges. It's very much like a muscle. Our capacity with flow is the more that we are able to stay in that flow state where it's just outside of our comfort zone. I don't know what's going to happen. We're training our nervous system up, but we're staying regulated before the dysregulation zone. When we are consistently in there and we stop when we need to, I believe that expands capacity and you have a higher access rate to flow. While somebody who is more burnt out, flow is really hard because their brain and body and soul don't necessarily like trust that they can like come into that without getting dysregulated. So, how do we expand our capacity for flow? I think anything that helps with your regulation, whether that is therapy or physical movement or a combination of all of those, good, good mental health meds, like all of these things expand capacity for flow. And that is how we are going to live our best lives because flow state is really awesome. I hope I have sold you on that or have resold you on that. If you have remembered just how great good work is, the work that really lights you up, how great chasing a goal is that doesn't make sense to anybody else but you, those are worthy of support. So please go out into the week and find your flow, chase your flow, let the goals chase themselves. When you're in alignment and in regulation, staying in that curiosity on the outer edge of your comfort zone, that is where your best life exists. Let's do it. All right, everybody. I am so excited. I will see you next week. Goodbye.